All right, good morning, everybody. Joe Van Doren here, and welcome to our virtues pick for this morning. And we have a word we haven't had for a while, and one that we all want to pay and focus on today. And that virtue that came up for us today was fidelity. Now, there might be one or two ways that we think about fidelity in a kind of a typical sense. But let's look at it from a broader sense today. Let's read the description first, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. So here's how the description for fidelity goes. Fidelity is abiding by an agreement, treating it as a personal covenant. It is remaining true to a cherished ideal no matter what happens to thwart our purpose. Marriage thrives when we fulfill our promise of absolute faithfulness to each other. In each relationship we form, fidelity keeps us scrupulously loyal. We avoid backbiting and casting blame. We call on our courage to resolve differences face to face. We are devoted to our employment and keep faith with a standard of excellence. We continually aim to be trustworthy. Fidelity keeps us on a path of true integrity. So I have to say that, the first thing that comes to our mind, at least in my mind, and maybe it's because I'm married, is fidelity inside the marriage, and being true to the promise that we make, and looking at this agreement not just on the face of the physical side, but also, am I being true to the agreement in an emotional way? Am I being true in a way that I would not do anything that would cause another person not to trust me? So, and that's what this aiming to be trustworthy is really all about. It's not just the actual factual facts of I did this or I didn't do this. So giving that impression of. And it's one of those things that I've always been concerned about. What is the impression that I'm giving? And not just from my own personal standpoint, but also from what would the other person possibly see? Or what could they possibly be taking from this action or these words or this conduct that I'm doing? Could they look at this and say, and feel like they were being cheated on in some way, or in some fashion not being faithful to the spirit of the agreement? And I think that's, for me, that's what fidelity is all about. It's not just the absolute physical acts, but also the spirit of those acts and the spirit of what we do. And even taking that even a little bit further, I really appreciate this line in here where it says fidelity. The description says we avoid backbiting and casting blame. And it's so easy, I find, at least for me, that grew up in a home where you felt like you needed to be perfect or you were in some kind of trouble. Usually when we grow up in a situation like that, we're not only critical of ourselves, but we also become very critical of other people. And so, that's something that I'm, constantly aware of, is that it's very easy for me to go into that casting blame, for going into being critical and blaming of others, and even shaming. And so, that's an area that I continue to work on. And I think that, for all of us, especially as parents, as we look at, how are we going to develop this virtue of fidelity even more? One of the ways of doing that is, how are we approaching our children? Are we approaching them with that personal covenant that we're going to give them unconditional love, and that they are unconditionally worthy of being seen as an individual, as a unique individual? Or are we finding ways to criticize them and to be put them down or to cast blame on them. And I just think that fidelity, taken further than just that personal relationship in a marriage, can sometimes even be taken to, how we're treating others that we've made this agreement with, that we're going to give our unconditional love to. And if we are finding a way to see them for who they really are, and see them the way that the universe sees them, in a loving way, in a kind way, in a way of seeing their worthiness and their dignity and their nobility, then we're practicing fidelity at a different level. So that's an area that I continue to grow in, and probably others do too. I'm noticing I'm dropping a lot of frames here, so we're going to wrap this up here real quickly. But how do we help our children grow in this area of fidelity? Obviously, we have to give it to them first, right? We have to demonstrate it to them. And, we'd want and love to see our kids demonstrate this virtue of fidelity in their personal relationships. And so, we can do that, help them learn how to do that by the way we demonstrate it. So even inside our marriage, when our children are watching us, they're learning how to treat another person. And so we want to be sure that they see us demonstrating this love towards this other person, that we're demonstrating kindness, that we're demonstrating courtesy, that we're demonstrating all of the virtues as we're growing them in a way with our significant other person, in a way that they can see this is how we demonstrate our agreement of unconditional love and our agreement of being faithful to one another. So those are my thoughts today about fidelity. I love this word. I just think it's, it's one of those virtues that we need to focus on, or at least I do, in ways that go beyond just inside a marriage or inside a personal relationship. So thank you very much for being here. Sorry that we dropped so many things. We must be having a bad internet day. But until next time, keep practicing all of the virtues and the 4 C's of successful families, and that is clarity, communication, consistency, and community. Until next time.